The Vietnam War has just ended.
American soldiers hiking their way through the sweaty jungles of South Vietnam, searching for an elusive enemy.
Veterans are coming back home, and the air is thick with freedom and rebellion. But somewhere on the Canadian border, things are far from normal. A deal is being struck. An alliance that would see the Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club smuggle drugs cooked up in the wilds of northern Ontario for the American Midwest. It's the Satan's Choice president's signature on the paperwork, but there's another man behind the groundbreaking alliance. A man with grander visions. A respected member of Satan's Choice who sees the seemingly profitable deal as child's play. His name, Garnet McEwen, affectionately known as Mother. But he wasn't looking to mother a business deal. He was hoping to pull the strings for a full-blown merger, a move that would take him closer to his ambitions. Except, he fails miserably. But he's not one to give up easily. His goal, amassing as much power as possible. His mission, running the most violent organization in bikers' history. But is he ready to make the sacrifices? Will he accept the responsibility that comes with the power he is seeking? He is about to find out, and his journey is anything but dull. So let's dive deep into his high-octane lifestyle that turns him into an unpopular figure in not one but two bike clubs. Before the motorcycle world. Born in 1945 in the humble town of Campbellton, in the land of maple syrup, McEwen's life starts out as ordinary as it gets. As a young man, he moves to St. Catherine, AS, Ontario. At first, he peddles pencils for a living, and after sharpening his sales skills, he takes a fashion detour, diving into the world of mod clothing at BJ's Men's Wear on St. Paul and St. Catharines. Such a good boy. No one would have imagined he would go on to become a biker bad boy. But his next venture brings him even closer to this new world. He saves up enough money to open a tattoo parlor, and he goes from selling sharp styles to etching them permanently on people's skin. However, life, as cruel as it can be, throws a curveball. McEwen, still a young man with a zest for life, gets into a motorcycle accident. He loses a leg and it is replaced with a prosthetic. But he doesn't lose his stride. He keeps walking, until he is introduced to a new world, a world that would completely turn his life around. But is it for the better or for the worse? There's only one way to find out. Life as a biker. McEwen opens a tattoo parlor to exercise his passion and make a living off of it. But he finds himself inking more leather-clad bikers than he'd imagined. His parlor becomes more than just a hub of art. It's a magnet for the members of Satan's Choice. And soon enough, he finds himself swapping his ink gun for a life on two wheels. But once he puts on that leather jacket, he is not like any other biker. He is a rock star in the club. His undeniable charm and wit propel him to the top of the pile. And he becomes the president of the St. Catharines chapter. And that's not going to be the highest position he holds. In 1969, the national president of the club, Bernie Gwindon, is convicted of rape and sent to the slammer. And McEwen, being the obvious heir apparent, takes the rein. He steers the ship like he's caught up in waves, and his life depends on it. When Gwindon is released in 1974, he hands McEwen a mission. McEwen and another biker head down to sunny Fort Lauderdale, and it's not for a beach holiday. They are there to meet the big dogs of the Outlaw Motorcycle Club making waves on the American side of the border. Most of the Outlaws are Vietnam War veterans looking for something to channel their energy somewhere else. McEwen is impressed. He's convinced they are the real deal, and he wants in badly. But it seems like he is alone in that. Therefore, it takes almost a year to convince the Satan's Choice national president to make a deal. And in June 1975, it finally happens. However, it's not what McEwen was hoping for. The alliance is a drug deal, allowing Satan's Choice to deal meth and PCP from the Great White North down to the Midwest. And although it's a win-win situation, McEwen is left with a bitter mouth and an unfulfilled heart. His appetite for more power is like a bottomless pit. He wants a full patch-over of Satan's Choice into the Canadian wing of the Outlaws. Why? Because he has a fever, and his only cure is guns, and more guns. And he believes the Outlaws have the cure. Therefore, he decides to throw the bait in once more. In a bold move, he invites the Outlaws' bigwigs from Chicago to meet Gwindon, the Satan's Choice president. But again, Gwindon isn't biting. He wants to retain the club's Canadian roots. McEwen is frustrated. He feels like a racehorse being held back at the starting line. And his meetings with Harry Bowman, the American national president of the Outlaws, only add fuel to the fire. Bowman makes him feel important and appreciates his contributions. McEwen believes there's a reason he's rubbing shoulders with the top dogs. He is destined for the top too, and he is not willing to let anyone or anything play speed bump to his ambitions, so he seeks help from unlikely friends. Is it going to get him what he wants? And if so, at what price? Seizing power. Just when you thought McEwen's story couldn't get any more interesting, things take a turn. McEwen isn't just any biker. He is a police informant, a double agent playing on both sides of the law, and he uses that to bring his dreams to reality. In August 1975, Gwendon visits a cozy little hunting lodge at Oba Lake. But he's not on vacation. The compound is owned by the president of the Satan's Choice Oshawa chapter, and it is home to a secret PCP factory. McEwen sees this as an opportunity to eliminate the bumps on the road, so he tips off the Ontario Provincial Police. Gwendon arrives at the cottage, and instead of being greeted by the welcoming arms of his fellow bikers, he's arrested with a whopping $6 million in PCP and manufacturing equipment. McEwen is cackling in the background. It's a first step towards achieving his dreams. Gwendon is thrown behind bars, again, and McEwen slides into the role of interim national president once more. One of his first moves? Arranging for a common association patch with the Outlaws. His ambition knows no bounds, but no one is impressed. In fact, he is not the most popular Satan's MC president, and he makes it harder for himself with his dictatorial leadership style. He even goes ahead to bug some members' cars, and a majority of them despise him and call him a rat. Under McEwen's reign, Satan's Choice is no longer a brotherhood. It's more of a soap opera with unending infighting, but he doesn't seem to care. He threatens to kick out the Kitchener chapter just because they get a little chatty with journalists. The rebellion against his leadership continues to boil over. None of the members dare speak ill to his face, but he can feel the tension. So he calls the presidents of the Windsor, Ottawa, and Montreal chapters and lays out his grand plan. After lengthy discussions, two of them buy into his plan immediately, but the president of the Montreal chapter stays on the fence for some time before finally committing. And with an agreement in place, McEwen facilitates a secret patch over for the Satan's MC chapters to join the Outlaws. It's like a hostile takeover, and McEwen is the villain on the inside, a master of deception, manipulation, and betrayal. And the wise know not to listen to his plans or heed his word. How long can he go on this way? And what more does he have to do to get his wishes? What happens next seals his fate as one of the most hated national presidents the Satan's Choice ever had. Dream come true? McEwen has already convinced a few Satan's Choice chapters to join the Outlaws, but he wants more, and by that he means a full patch over. But his actions have done little to change the members' perception of him. His popularity is dropping faster than a lead balloon, but he has a last resort. Therefore, in July 1977, he calls for a meeting for all chapter presidents. Except he conveniently forgets to invite those who are still loyal to Gwendon. His pitch is the usual. Let's join the Outlaws. And his selling point, being part of an American club would make them cooler. Instead of the usual spot at Wasaga Beach, he chooses Crystal Beach, which is closer to the American border. And it's not the only sly move he makes. He adds some muscle by inviting members of the Detroit chapter of the Outlaws. So, one by one, like a row of rebellious dominoes, the chapter presidents fall in line with McEwen's grand plan. With a flick of a match, there's a general wardrobe change. The presidents burn their old Satan's Choice jackets and don new ones with the outlaw patch. Meanwhile, somewhere in the confines of Millhaven Prison, a counter-scene is unfolding. The imprisoned national president, Gwendon, places a $10,000 bounty on McEwen's head. Shortly after that, McEwen's house in St. Catharines becomes a scene of a failed assassination attempt. And his master plan is not bearing much fruit either. Many Satan's Choice members are concerned about the club's identity going up in flames, so they quit completely, leaving both the Outlaws and Satan's Choice clubs short of members. The clubs are weakening, and McEwen's reputation is still a sinking stone. He realizes that the Outlaws are a spicier target, especially for his police handlers who now hunger for more, so he keeps his plan in motion. But most Satan's Choice members are not children. They can smell McEwen's selfish intentions from afar. They think he's in it for a personal payday, and they're right. He doesn't care about what happens to everyone else. He already has what he wants. But things are about to go awry for him. Will he survive another twist in his journey? On a free fall. By the end of 1977, McEwen is impressed with his achievements. He has successfully managed to sell ice to Eskimos, or in this case, the Outlaws patched to Canadian bikers. But he has one big headache: the Satan's Choice Toronto chapter. When he tries to roll his way into Toronto, he hits a brick wall. The chapter's president and its members will hear none of it, and they are serious about it. So they team up with the Paradise Riders and the Vagabonds, all to ensure they repel the new Outlaws patches from entering Toronto. The standoff would continue until 1984, when McEwen's successor as Outlaws national president convinced the Toronto-based Iron Hogs Motorcycle Club to join the Outlaws. In the meantime, he becomes the first national president of the Canadian Outlaws. But still, he isn't winning any popularity contests, and he doesn't make things easier for himself. The American Outlaws, led by Tack Bowman, catch him with his hands in the cookie jar. He has embezzled a whopping $30,000 from the club. It's an expensive mistake, and he is lucky to only be expelled without further punishment, until he makes one final decision, a decision that seals his fate. He decides to skip town. He zooms off to Alberta, trading his biker leather for a dishwasher's apron in a Calgary hotel. It's a fall from grace to grass, but he is convinced he's still got it. So McEwen, ever the social butterfly, joins the Chosen Few Motorcycle Club while still working as a dishwasher. But it doesn't take long for him to make a mess of it. His sticky fingers strike again, and he's caught stealing from the club. But this time, he isn't getting any mercy. He's on the wrong end of a beatdown, the weapon of choice being his own artificial leg. Once a man who stood tall in the biker world, his greed brings him down. From a feared leader to a dishwasher and an outcast, his story is filled with betrayal, ambition, and flying too close to the sun. And every sign indicates that it's time to lay low, and he does just that. Whisper ending. By the late 1980s, McEwen has already etched his name in the history books, and it's not for the best reasons. But at least it's there. He has lived a life that could make any action movie look lame, and it ends surprisingly calmly. After the beating by Chosen Few Motorcycle Club members, he hangs his boots. His tribulations are music to the ears of the Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club. It is enough punishment for his greed and betrayal. His past is like a bad tattoo, hard to just shake off. So he moves and settles in Saskatoon with his family. His life from then on is quiet, until he dies in January 2012, leaving behind a legacy that only reminds people that in the world of outlaw bikers, brotherhood and loyalty are everything.